Sup y'all, it's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about a hashtag I've been seeing all over the place now. It's been on the general forums, on Reddit, on Twitter of course, and that is hashtag stoptheprune. Now, I don't really know entirely who originated this hashtag, and I don't really think that really makes too big of a difference. It might have been Sidu, who's he's a pretty notable PvPer and a streamer, but I'm not entirely sure either way. So anyway, this hashtag was created as kind of a response to a lot of the pruning and the abilities, and if you guys don't know really what that means, it's basically abilities being taken away from classes in Legion. A lot of people have been able to play the alpha now, have been able to see it, and they've seen that a lot of maybe their favorite abilities or core rotational abilities are missing, and I think that a lot of people are really upset about that, and so they've been using this hashtag to kind of, I guess, have a discussion about this and hopefully engage Blizzard and have a discussion and talk to Blizzard about what they really want to see changed. Now, there has been one blue post responding to this, and Watcher, who's Ian Hazacostas, he's the lead. He's basically the lead raid designer. That's my understanding. He's one of the lead game designers for a while. Did give a response to it, and he said basically that I guess like Blizzard was talking about it, and I think that that's really kind of a good thing. I personally. Like, for me, the changes in Legion don't really bother me as much as a warrior, but the changes going into Warlords of Draenor, which is really the same thing, were horrible. The truth of the matter is that Mists of Pandaria, I think, was the high point for warriors ever since Icecrown Citadel. I don't think they have ever been that good ever since ICC, and then at the end of 5.4, I do apologize, by the way, for the fucking rain and for the fucking thunder. You know, I'd try and call God or something like that, but he wasn't picking up. Anyway, I can't do anything about that, so if there's any sound, I do apologize. Anyway, Warriors really got a huge prune on their abilities, and I think that the worst class for that was spec for that was Arms Warriors. You know, in Mists of Pandaria, 5.4 Arms Warrior was probably, was probably my favorite iteration of Arms Warrior in the entire game, okay? And so obviously to go from that amazing, great gameplay, and I just felt like everything flowed together so well, everything was just perfect, everything was exactly the way it needed to be, the way it should be, and I enjoyed playing it every single day. And then to go from that to go over to the literal like fucking 2 or 3 button, like where's my Super Nintendo controller rotation that we had for Arms Warriors in in Warlords of Draenor, it was a huge disappointment, and it really made me not want to play the class, and it really sucked. And so I think that some other classes are probably getting that same treatment now in Legion, and so they're voicing their concerns. I can say right now that I didn't really get anything that I wanted out of Warlords of Draenor in terms of class changes, but I really hope that people do in Legion. You know, I think that it's not really a surprise, it's not a secret, that Blizzard is trying to make a larger audience of players. And one of the ways that they're trying to attract a larger audience, especially in terms of spectator, I guess like of WoW being like a spectator sport of people like watching other people play WoW, right? Like tournaments and everything. And that's why I think that we're seeing a lot of the abilities, especially in Legion, the animations get changed. Like Bladestorm, they had the thing with the actual blades going around you. And so it's a very conscious and very overt effort to make the abilities telegraph very well onto the screen, so a viewer can see exactly what's going on without having to have, you know, like very extensive knowledge of the game anyway. A lot of the times whenever I watch the tournaments that have been, I guess, like hosted by GCD and some other pretty good tournament organizations for WoW PvP, even the casters sometimes have a really hard time keeping up with the amount of abilities and shit that's going out. So as a kind of a spectator player, it's going to be very hard to really understand what's happening, especially if you're not really at that level. I want to compare that also to a game like CSGO or League of Legends, which probably are the two biggest online esport competitive games. Like CSGO, it's really simple. Like, you see somebody point their gun at somebody and they fire, and then the person falls down and there's blood on the ground, they're probably dead. Like, you know exactly what's going on. Like, somebody who's never played a video game before in their life can understand immediately exactly what's happening, and so that broadens the potential audience for people who are going to be spectators and are going to watch that game. Right now, I think that WoW PvP really has an audience that's limited to WoW PvPers, and I think that really that's probably never going to be extended past World of Warcraft in general, But I think it would be pretty good if they could do something with like making the different abilities telegraph better, which I think that's what they're doing. So the point that I'm really trying to get at with all of this is that obviously Blizzard is making a very conscious effort again to make abilities telegraph very well into the screen and also simplify characters and simplify rotations so newer people can get into the game and they can understand what's going on very easily. Now, I don't really think that this is a bad thing in a way, but it can be done very badly, and I think that in a lot of ways Warlords of Draenor Warriors have been an indication of that. There are almost no buttons for the warrior, and I don't really find it fun. There were also no buttons really for the warrior in Burning Crusade, and I still did find it fun because whenever you were able to hit those buttons, you did a lot of damage, and it was just it was really kind of a different game at that point. Now, with people playing the game for so long, I think that there does have to be a lot more, I guess, like kind of interaction between spells. And things for like players who are more serious at like taking the game more seriously, to where there's something that there's a higher skill cap for each of the classes. I don't really think that the classes have as high of a skill cap as they used to have, although, as I said, I'm not really like a top PvPer. So really a lot of this is kind of from my perspective as a PvE player. So from a PvE perspective, I think that really the main problem and what's causing a lot of this pruning and everything is the whole idea of bringing the player, not the class. And I don't really think that's ever going to work, period. It's just never going to work. Unless you make the difference between warlocks and mages the color of the spells, there's always going to be one that's going to come out ahead. So the problem there is that unless warlocks or unless mages have a unique ability, one of them is going to be brought over the other one, and one of them is going to be invited or not invited. And in a game like World of Warcraft, where like numbers are so fleshed out, everybody is like theory crafting, and like not really everybody's theory crafting, but everybody knows what really the theory crafting is, especially in like the raiding community and even pug raiding. So, for example, like if you're like a survival hunter right now, it's going to be pretty hard for you to get into a group because survival hunters aren't very strong. If survival hunters still had something like Aspect of the Fox or something like that, where they could actually give raid utility, they would still be useful. It's very similar to how Death Knights right now have Gorfine's Grasp. Gorfine's Grasp is such a strong ability that even if a Death Knight does basically 0 damage, it's still worth it to bring that Death Knight into the raid because he has that ability. Now, that's obviously not bring the player, that's bring the class. But what that really does is it makes it to where Frost Death Knights don't have to compete with survival hunters, that don't have to compete with arcane mages and damage. Because when everybody's equal, there's always going to be one person that comes out ahead, and then it really ultimately comes down to nobody is equal. My personal, I guess, like solution to this would be to give each different class a number of unique abilities they could do, each class and spec. So whenever you brought in, like, let's say, a enhancement shaman, you got Wind Fury Totem. Whenever you brought in, like, let's say, as I said, a survival hunter, you got Aspect of the Fox, something like that. And the reason you would want to do that is to where people can play the classes that they want, the classes and the specs that they want to play, while still being able to have a raid spot. It also puts a little bit more metagame into designing your raid and everything like that. Now, the downside to this is obviously, of course, there are going to be a lot of people who can't really get a raid together with enough, let's say, survival hunters for Aspect of the Fox. For like Mythic Blackhand, that fight really did require, not really require, I'm sure some people did it without it, but almost everybody did it with Aspect of the Fox, and so it does make certain classes and specs required in a way, but that's more of like very a high level thing, and I think that at a certain point, Blizzard really should design a game for the 99% and not the 1%. So I'm really kind of, in a lot of ways, I'm torn with the Stop the Prune, but I think that, whenever you look at like specific examples, like Warriors are losing Spell Reflect in Legion, I'm really not happy about that. Warriors have had Spell Reflect for the entire, basically, duration of the game outside of Vanilla. It was introduced in Burning Crusade, and we've had it ever since. It's been one of my favorite abilities. I honestly, like, whenever it was announced, I thought it was just the coolest fucking thing ever. I even remember you got it level 64. Like, I was so happy whenever I got that. We're also losing Intervene. We're losing Taunt. We're losing Die by the Sword as a baseline ability. Damn. We're losing a lot of different other abilities, and it's really kind of disappointing. And obviously, I really don't want to see that happen, but I don't really see that changing either. It seems like any ability that's not very easily visible on the screen is getting taken out of the game. And I think that at a certain point, if people want to play a MOBA, they'll play a MOBA. If people want to play a FPS, they'll play an FPS. If people want to play an MMO, I think there's a certain amount of like a large amount of spells that you can use and just like all that kind of stuff that almost every MMO has. So it seems to me like Blizzard is trying to chase an audience for a game, for a different game. And I think that, like, to a certain point, yes, classes should be simplified. They should be simplified, streamlined to where they're easy to learn, hard to master. That's really kind of the idea. I think that really, like, one of the best points, for each different class, I think it was different. But I think that in general, Wrath of the Lich King ICC times was really good for making, I guess, like, classes easy to play. I think it's important really to think about it, guys. There's not really a whole lot of people who are going to spend time researching and figuring everything out. So making classes relatively easy to deal with is probably a better thing. It does more good than it does harm, if that makes sense. So I understand pretty much where they're coming from, and I think it's a good idea. But I don't know. I mean, like, it's disappointing, especially, it was really, really disappointing. Like, I hadn't really PvP'd, honestly, on my Warrior because of the changes on Arms Warrior, really at all this expansion, except until recently, because I found, like, an RBG group. But before that, I didn't really PvP at all. And main reason for that is I didn't really find the rotation fun. I didn't find playing it fun. And it just sucked. And I think that really kind of, it's a bummer to me, honestly, because I really do enjoy that part of the game, or I did enjoy it. But whenever you have a class or a spec that's really not fun to play at all, and you've seen like a lot of the utility go out of it, as we're seeing now with Legion again, like as I said before with taunt and stuff like that, you used to be able to like taunt a boss. You can do that right now. Like, you can taunt a boss like with Die by the Sword and like save the tank. You can use it kind of as a cooldown, and it's a really cool thing that warriors can do. Now, is that really breaking the game? Not really, but it's a cool thing that somebody who's very comfortable with the spec and the class can do, and whenever they do that, it's unique to that class and that spec, and I think that's a really, really great thing. There's always like that one time that people remember whenever they save the raid, or, whenever they had some sort of amazing utility, like a warlock is able to tank Illidan in the shadow phase with Searing Pain, like a hunter is able to kite Drakkasath, all the way around the room. There's a lot of different things that people like can remember like that, and I think that like creating those experiences where you can be like the one dude that fucking saves the day. I think that's really cool, and I don't really see Legion doing that. There's just a lot more homogenization, and so before I really kind of like, let me see how long I've been going about this. A little bit too long. So really kind of what it comes down to me is that I think that they should take away some abilities, but there are a lot of abilities that don't really matter. Like, they got rid of Sentry Totem. Why the fuck did they get rid of Sentry Totem? I don't know. Was it going to confuse players? I don't know. Like, how stupid do you have to be for Sentry Totem to confuse you? I don't know. It seems kind of stupid to me. And it's like taking away kind of, like flavor abilities like that, like Mocking Blow that warriors used to have. Like, why you really do that? I mean, that's kind of like what makes mastering a class. That's what makes a difference between somebody that just is learning a class and somebody who's mastered it. And I think that having that mastery of the class, with understanding all of the abilities and the way that they can work together and those little situational uses, that's really rewarding for people. And whenever someone reaches that level, that's definitely an accomplishment in itself. And I mean, really, I think that's what it comes down to, is making sure people feel like they're worth something, and they're not just basically, as I said, like a blue-colored warlock or a purple or black-colored mage. It's just not really as rewarding. And so I would really like to see at least like some rotations be brought back. It seems like Blizzard has they have a goal in mind. They have like a vision for the game, and that vision is not necessarily what the players want. Now, it could be what the players need, but we'll see. I don't really know. So, Stop the Prune, hashtag Stop the Prune. I think it's a valiant attempt. I think it's a good idea. I don't really know what's going to come of it, but I hope something. So, best of luck to you guys. That's kind of like where I'm at. I figured I'd make a video since I do that, and I mean, I guess like from PVE perspective, I've seen this happen a lot, especially with class homogenization and then making other classes having to compete with each other. So that's pretty much what I think. Hopefully they'll bring back some cool abilities. I'd really like to see, like maybe 5 or 6 or 10, honestly, cool flavor abilities brought back into the classes, such as Mocking Blow or like Mocking Totem or that whatever, Demoralizing Banner or something like that. Yeah, Mocking Banner. Like that kind of stuff is cool, and whenever people learn how to play very well with those things, I think that's a rewarding experience. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think. I think that there's a good way and a bad way to use hashtags. Sometimes whenever you have people using these hashtags, you get kind of like these 14-year-old menaces that are just like really stupid about it. And for anybody that's going to bring that up, you can't really control what somebody does with the hashtag. Somebody can just like do hashtag, I don't know, like they can do anything. They can do hashtag anything and, completely contradict what that hashtag is for, or, derail it or make it look bad or whatever. And I would just say to everybody, try and pick out the positive stuff, because the negative stuff is going to happen no matter what. You can't really control, once you put something out there like that, you can't really control the way it's used. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think, but before I just keep going on and on, I'll just kind of cut it here. So thank you for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.